in the community, etc. So, and so we talked about that too. So he at least knew that he was talking to somebody who was a Christian. However, there was one thing I didn't deeply talk about. And the other, however, is others had done so. And because of their association with my grandson, John had chosen to accomplish the greatest of all actions and achievements and accomplishments that a person could have. In the last week, it is reported to me, in the last week of John's life, he accepted Jesus as his Savior. Both my husband and I are so proud of John choosing to accept Jesus as his Savior. This is such a grand memory for his grandmother to be standing here knowing John is forgiven and that his eternal adventure, his eternal adventure has just begun. As God now blesses John, may God now bless us all here present. And seek God always and Jesus in our daily lives. And praise God, from whom all blessings flow. And God bless every single person here. And my final greeting for John is, God bless you, take care, and love you. And love to everybody here present.
Hello, I'm Jonathan's uncle. I just wanted to share a couple things with you. I didn't know Jonathan as an adult, so I've been learning a lot about him these last couple days that I've been able to spend with family and his friends. One thing I thought was interesting was he liked to give names to things. Vernon shared a story about Jonathan's particular choice of names for his fish. I don't remember what these names were, but there was meaning given to each name. From the video, Mama Dukes, who's here today, was given a name. I don't know why. So I was also given a name by Jonathan. Again, I don't know the reasoning behind this, but he was very young, and I had met him in passing when he was very, very small, like a baby or some such. So at this point, when I met him, he was just speaking, just being able to put words together. And I said, I've met you, but you probably don't remember me. And he looked at me and said, I know who you are. And I thought, okay, who am I? And he said, you're Uncle Drax. I don't know where this name came from, but I'm Uncle Drax. From the stories that I've heard last night, and the stories I've heard from his family, and the video presentation given, Jonathan was a star shining for everyone. Stars shine at night, and people don't know this, generally accepted, but stars shine during the daytime too. The sun's really bright, and you can't see these stars shine. But their light still comes down to you and still touches you. So on a day like today where the sun is burdening us with its heat, remember that the stars are still shining. And John is a star shining for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian, for that. Thank you, Mother. So many stories surround Jonathan. And there's a lot of stories that I, as his father and his mother and my mom and the rest of us and his family will actually never know. That's why it's important, in my opinion, for the stories to be shared amongst friends, amongst family, so that each and every one of us knows. As Ray Sagan would say, everyone has a story to be told. And that's very true. And there's some chapters we will just never know. Jonathan's fish have had a variety of names, yes, and I don't remember all those names either, but he explained them to me one day, and he had like 2 names for each fish, and they had a very detailed name and story behind them. So this is what I have to say about Jonathan. I stand before you with my son Jonathan. And although he is right here next to me, he is also not here. What you see before you is his physical form. It is and will be how we always remember him. However, please know that even though he is physically gone from us, he will always go on. For he will be with the Lord, and he will always be in our hearts, memories, and even in some way, in some remote way, his physical form will actually go on through his donation of himself. That's important for me to say, because somewhere out there, the possibility of Jonathan helping somebody else is there. And he was always trying to help others. So he was a physical young man. He played many sports, as I said in the video. But some things other people don't know about Jonathan was that he was an accomplished musician. He played trumpet. He actually played the same trumpet his brother played, but that's just the brother hand-me-down thing. But he played trumpet. He was in the band. He tried to learn guitar. From what I hear, he tried to play ukulele. That's what I was told. Now, I don't know if he played it well, but knowing Jonathan, he thought he did. I ran across a video of him that he sang at Mama Duke's house. I'm going to assume it was late at night. And it was a classic. If you knew Jonathan and the type of music he listened to, it was in that vein. But it was interesting that he actually had it going on pretty good for a while. And it looked like it was an impromptu one, so a gift of rhyme he had. He also did a lot of other things. He snorkeled, he surfed, he did those things that young men do in the world. And to me, that was important. As I said in the video, the question that was asked is what advice I would give to parents. And what I tried to do with my son Jonathan and with my other sons was to expose them to a variety of many things. Outside, inside, books, movies, and just getting out of the house and enjoying things. Never expected Jonathan to be a professional baseball player or football player, but or a basketball player. Basketball was his favorite sport, I believe. But he was always able to go out, and he was sociable enough that he could join a pickup game and do well at it. Other things about Jonathan and his sports was he was actually a playmaker. And while he may not always have done the best, or he may not have always been, the first guy picked, but one of the stories I remember was he was on a league playing for the Fort Bragg team. I forget the name, Angels or whatever. And they were up at bat, and then it was not one where everybody had to play. So he sat on the bench a lot, and they weren't doing very well at this game. And I approached the coach, and I said, "Coach, if you want to turn this game around, put Jonathan in." And at that time, they were losing pretty good. So he's like, what the heck, why not? So he put Jonathan in. Jonathan went up to bat, took the first strike, and then afterwards got a base hit. And that's what that team needed to turn around. Don't think they won the game, but it rallied the team. And after that point, anytime that coach needed a play to be made, he would call Jonathan up and say, I need a play made. That was Jonathan. When he played football, he was the same way. If you got by him one time, that was the only time you got by him. He would put the guy on his back the next time, because he was just that competitive of a guy. He was also a very proud young man. He was proud of his accomplishments and of his deeds. And some of his good deeds were teaching children. He was a member of the juvenile drug court, and because, again, he had his issues. But as part of that, they did a lot of community outreach. And the Honorable Judge Viola, who was with us last night, who I don't see today, remarked that he was really surprised and impressed with Jonathan when they went down to the Blaisdell and they worked with a bunch of orphans putting together Christmas treats and such, and how Jonathan was able to scoop these kids in and really relate to them and really take care of them. So he did that well. Jonathan didn't brag on himself much, but he was proud, again, of getting his high school diploma. He made a very big deal of that when he did that, because he went in and took the test and passed everything the first time. So he was extremely proud of that. And once he graduated, he would never let anybody forget, because he did attend Mililani High School. He would never admit that. He was a Leilahua High School grad, even though he went to Mililani for one semester. But he would never admit that. I never once found his Mililani High School ID card, but his Leilahua High School ID card was in his room, easily found. Some of his other accomplishments, again, getting his driver's license, that was a big deal for him. One of the things he really, truly enjoyed in the latter part of his life was working downtown with Sean and some other guys doing construction. He was, Jonathan was up every morning early, made it downtown, did his work, was really happy with it, and was proud of his work, and would come home and share those stories of how he put in drywall and they worked all these things. So he was extremely proud of that, and that was something that he enjoyed. He actually did really enjoy working with his hands. One of the last things that he and I did together as a father and son was move a bunch of stuff in North Carolina. When we went back to North Carolina, I had a bunch of stuff that in our travels through the military I had put in storage. Stuff that they told me that I would not need or could not fit into houses here in Hawaii because the rooms were so small. And they were right. So we had a large amount of stuff, and I didn't remember how much stuff this was. So I got the sheet and I said, oh, I think we need a small size U-Haul truck. So we got that and we showed up at the site, and it's a giant warehouse, and we have this 15-foot U-Haul truck, and they have their whole dock bay, which is about the size of this, absolutely packed with stuff. And the guy was like, that's the truck you have? How many trips are you planning? And Jonathan and I looked at that, and we're like, well, I don't know, we'll probably have to make a couple trips. But Jonathan actually took charge of that. I gave him the inventory sheet. He walked with the guy, did the inventory of all the stuff, got it together. I started loading the truck, and he said, Dad, stop. What are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to load it this way. He said, Dad, that doesn't make sense. He said, tell you what, I'll tell you what to bring. You bring it to me, I'll pack it in, which is good because I am not a good Tetris player. But the biggest thing with this is not only did we load the entire dock into a 15-foot U-Haul truck, We did it in 45 minutes. The boss on the dock had several other trucks out there with several other people loading trucks, and came by and he told Jonathan, he said, "Wow, I'm impressed. Do you need a job?" Because he was impressed by the fact that he saw Jonathan take charge, load this truck, and do it in a very timely manner that I guess, you know, other people may not make that timeline on. And he did it, and again, we put everything in that truck. Well, we threw a couple things away, but Jonathan was instrumental in that too. Jonathan had a way of cleaning things, which was mainly included grabbing a large bag of trash bags and scooping it up and making it disappear. Some of those things, I don't really know if we needed or not. But I haven't missed any of them, so therefore I'm going to go with what he said. All right, moving on. He also had a lot of things that he was really proud of. One of the last things he was really proud of was that car. He went out and he was with Sean, and he's like, "Hey, there's this car, Dad." We went out, we looked at it, we pulled the Carfax report, said it all looks good. How much does the guy want for it? Sean was like, "I think he wants like $900 for it." I'm like, "Okay, how are we getting that? Because I don't have it." He's like, "Well, let's just hold off and let's see what happens." He knew that the guy was leaving Island. He waited the guy out. Even at the last minute, he's like, I got to sell you my car. You know, you got $600. And John's like, "Nope, don't have $600. I got $5." And so the guy's like, guy had no choice. He was leaving Island like the next day. He's like, "Okay, I'll sell it to you for $5." Turned out this is also the same car that he had his wreck in. When the insurance adjusters appraised the car, they actually found it was worth more like about $1,400. So Jonathan was not only very organized, had a good three-dimensional mind, but he was pretty shrewd on his business dealings. So he was good with that. I'm sad that this happened to Jonathan. I'm sad that this happened at all, and I appreciate your all's support. However, looking on it, what I find is I'm not sad about Jonathan's past. I'm not sad about Jonathan's present. What I find myself sitting here, listening to all the people talking, watching the videos, and yes, crying, is that I'm going to miss him in the future. I'm going to miss all of the things that he did, or could have done. When he got married, kids, house, job, all of those things that, you know, we as parents, we look back and we have all the videos, we have all the pictures, and we laugh about the baby picture of them being naked swimming in the tub. But all those things that I'm going to miss in the future with Jonathan is what I find myself most sad about. So I have couple other things I just would want to read in closing on this, and I apologize for taking long. I tend to ramble. And Jonathan would tell me that, "Hey, Dad, you're going on too long." Same way he would tell his mom that was enough pictures, by the way. Just saying. So there's two poems, and I don't know if I read poems well, but I'm going to find out here in a second. The first one is, "Feel no guilt in laughter, he'd know how much you care." Feel no guilt in laughter, he'd know how much you care. Feel no sorrow in a smile that he is not here to share. You cannot grieve forever, he would not want you to. He'd hope that you could carry on the way you always do. So, talk about the good times and the way you showed you cared. The days you spent together, all the happiness you shared. Let memory surround you. A word someone may say will suddenly recapture a time, an hour, a day that brings him back as clearly as though he were still here, and fills you with the feelings that he is always near. For if you keep these moments, you will never be apart, and he will live forever, locked safely within your heart. It's "Look for Me in Rainbows." So, you ready?
Yep.
Time for me to go now. I won't say goodbye. Look for me in rainbows. way up in the sky. In the morning sunrise, when all the world is new, just look for me and love me as you know I loved you. Time for me to leave you, I won't say goodbye. Look for me in rainbows, high up in the sky. In the evening sunset, when all the world is through, just look for me and love me, and I'll be close to you. It won't be forever, the day will come, and then my loving arms will hold you when we meet again. Time for us to part now, we won't say goodbye. Look for me in rainbows, shining in the sky. Every waking moment and all your whole life through, just look for me and love me as you know I loved you. Just wish for me to be near you, and I'll be there with you. This was by Con Bernard and Vicki Brown. And again, I am very appreciative of all of you that were in his life, that mentored, guided him, were just his friend, and cared for him. I thank you.
Thank you very much, once again, for everybody coming out.
I know that after this, many of you are thinking, man, now the pastor's got to talk. I'm going to keep it short, but I want to keep it real, because I believe too many times within the church we have this aura of what religiosity is, but we aren't for real. When I met John, which was just 8 weeks before he passed away, he came to church and sat, like Kendall said, about 4 rows from the back, and he came up to me afterwards and shared some of what he was going through in his life, and said, you know what, I need to be real.